Imagine this. You wake up to a soft, algorithmic chime, a sound designed not to startle but to soothe. Before your eyes fully open, your hand glides toward the glowing rectangle on your bedside table. A flood of notifications, memes, headlines about distant wars, a reminder to buy toothpaste. You scroll, half awake, as a podcast plays in one ear. 10 Habits of Highly Successful People. While your other ear catches the morning news. Inflation, AI breakthroughs, a celebrity scandal. Your coffee brews itself as you skim an article titled, Why You're Never Satisfied. By noon, you've consumed more information than a medieval scholar in a lifetime, yet your mind feels like a parched riverbed, cracked, empty, aching for something you cannot name. This is not a dystopian fiction. This is Tuesday. We live in the most technologically liberated age in human history, yet we move through life like sleepwalkers, our pockets heavy with devices that promise connection but breed existential isolation. We've mastered the art of distracting ourselves to death, trading depth for dopamine, wisdom for Wi-Fi. Aldous Huxley warned of this in 1932. People will come to love their oppression, to adore the technologies that undo their capacities to think. But here's the unsettling twist. We are both the prisoners and the jailers. We cling to our chains, terrified of what we might hear in the silence. What if your deepest cravings, for likes, for endless content, for the next viral hit, are not yours at all? What if they're the whispers of a system engineered to keep you pacified, docile, forever hungry but never nourished? Huxley's nightmare wasn't jackboots crushing skulls. It was hypnotic screens dissolving souls. Brave New World citizens gulped soma to mute their existential dread. We binge Netflix. We doom scroll. We swipe. The method is sleeker, but the outcome is identical. A civilization too numb to notice it's dying. You feel it already. The ghostly itch beneath your skin when you try to sit still, the phantom buzz of a phone that isn't vibrating. Your attention span fractures, your memories blur into a digital haze. You read Plato's Know Thyself as a self-help slogan while algorithms dissect your psyche into data points. You preach mindfulness between TikTok sessions. The contradiction is grotesque. We seek enlightenment in an age engineered to obliterate introspection. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly bored yourself on purpose? Not meditated, not journaled, just sat, raw and unmediated, with the terrifying wonder of your own consciousness. No music, no podcasts, no escape. Most would rather walk on broken glass. Huxley's real horror wasn't distraction itself, but what we're distracted from. In Brave New World, the controllers outlaw Shakespeare, religion, and art, not because they're dangerous, but because they're too alive. They crack open the human spirit. They demand suffering, growth, engagement with the sublime. Our modern controllers need no such bans. Why silence poets when you can drown them in cat videos? Why burn books when you can flood neural pathways with 15-second clips until Tolstoy feels like a tax audit? We've built a Louvre of trivialities and locked ourselves inside. This is not a lecture about digital detoxes or screen time limits. This is about the war for your inner world, the one Huxley saw coming, where the battlefield is your attention and the spoils are your humanity. Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." Your choices are rigged by architectures older than you. Capitalism's hunger for growth, neuroscience's map of your dopamine pathways, Silicon Valley's God complex. You are not weak, you are outgunned. But here's the secret they fear you'll discover. Distraction is not the cause, it's the symptom. It's the bandage over a wound we dare not name. What lies beneath? Why would entire civilizations conspire to stay unconscious? Jung called it the shadow. Kierkegaard called it dread. Huxley called it the ultimate revolution, the moment humanity stops resisting its own spiritual euthanasia. In the next section, we descend into the labyrinth, to the psychological roots of this addiction, the philosophers who predicted it, and the terrifying reason we'd rather burn the world than face ourselves. You're standing at the edge of a vast subterranean labyrinth. The walls pulse with faint electrical hums, the sound of servers, synapses, and suppressed truths. This is where Huxley's prophecy took root, not in boardrooms or parliaments, but in the darkest corners of the human psyche. To understand why we've become architects of our own distraction, we must venture deeper. Ask yourself, what are we so desperate to escape? In 1844, Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "The specific character of despair is precisely this. It is unaware of being despair." Modernity has rebranded despair as burnout, anxiety, or FOMO. But Kierkegaard's sickness unto death persists, a gnawing emptiness we try to fill with infinite scrolls and curated personas. Psychologist Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we exile: shame, rage, grief, existential terror. Distraction is the shovel we use to bury them alive. But here's the trap. The more you numb the void, the wider it grows. Like a black hole, it feeds on avoidance. We've outsourced our shadows to Netflix playlists and Instagram filters, but they don't disappear. They metastasize. Huxley's soma was a drug that kept citizens docile with artificial bliss. Today's soma is algorithmic, a cocktail of dopamine triggers engineered to exploit your brain's ancient wiring. Neuroscientists have mapped the seeking system, a primal circuit that once drove humans to hunt, explore, and survive. Tech conglomerates hijack this system. Every notification, every "you might also like," is a digital pellet for your inner lab rat. You're not choosing to scroll, you're being farmed. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this psychopolitics, a regime of self-exploitation where we voluntarily enslave ourselves to the illusion of freedom. You click accept on terms of service, but the real contract is written in your synapses. Trade depth for dopamine. Surrender sovereignty for stimulation. Friedrich Nietzsche warned that without myth, humanity becomes a herd wandering through an infinite nothing. Our modern myth is progress, a vague, glowing promise that more apps, more content, more convenience will fill the hole. But philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre saw the trap. Hell is other people. Today, hell is the algorithmic mirror, a funhouse reflection of your fractured self, screaming into the void of a comments section. We've replaced gods with gadgets, ancient rituals with unboxing videos, sacred fires with screen glare. The result? A civilization drowning in meaninglessness, too fragmented to even ask, what does it all mean? Here's the brutal truth. We've fallen in love with our captors. Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz, wrote that humans can endure any how if they have a why. But our modern why has been outsourced to influencers and AI chatbots. We've become addicted not to distraction itself, but to the illusion of purpose it provides. Arthur Schopenhauer saw this coming. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. Your choices are puppeteered by forces older than you. Capitalism's hunger, Darwinian social competition, the primal fear of being left behind. You swipe to survive. But survival is not living. Distraction is not an accident. It's an industry. Every second of your attention is mined, refined, and sold. A 21st century gold rush. Social media platforms are slot machines. Netflix is a dopamine drip. Philosopher Mark Fisher called this capitalist realism, the belief that no alternative to capitalism is possible, so we resign ourselves to spiritual wage labor. But the real crime is this. The system profits by convincing you that your pain is personal failure. Anxiety isn't a bug, it's a business model. Your self-loathing fuels infinite growth. We've reached the heart of the labyrinth. The minotaur awaiting us isn't a monster. It's a mirror. What you see there will terrify you. Distraction is not your enemy, it's your accomplice. A collaborator in the quiet annihilation of your soul. But why? Why would we conspire in our own demise? The answer lies in a truth so ancient, so venomous, that civilizations have built pyramids, empires, and Instagram to avoid it. In the next section, we confront the abyss, the unseen consequences of this addiction, and why your brain would rather burn the world than face itself. You walk through a museum of your own mind. The The walls are lined with fading frescoes, neural pathways once vibrant with focus, creativity, and depth. Now they're overgrown with weeds of fragmented thought, their colors bleached by the ultraviolet glare of screens. MRI scans reveal the damage. Heavy users of digital distraction show thinner gray matter in regions responsible for empathy, critical thinking, and emotional regulation. Your brain isn't evolving, it's unraveling. Neurologists call this digital atrophy. Like a muscle left unused, your capacity for sustained attention withers. You mistake speed for intelligence, reaction for reflection. The average person now checks their phone 144 times a day, once every 6.5 minutes. Each ping carves a groove in your psyche, a rut so deep that stillness feels like suffocation. But the true horror lies deeper. In 2023, a Stanford study found that 68% of people experience phantom vibrations, the sensation of a phone buzzing when none exists. Your nervous system has been colonized. You've outsourced your inner voice to algorithms that know your fears better than your mother. Jean-Paul Sartre warned that hell is other people, but he never imagined hell could be your own mind, weaponized against you. Social media platforms exploit what psychologists call the spotlight effect, the belief that others scrutinize your every move. Every post, every story becomes a performance in an invisible theater. You curate a self that doesn't exist to appease an audience that isn't watching. The result? A generation of dissociative identities, part human, part avatar, wholly unsure where one ends and the other begins. Ancient Greeks had two words for time: chronos, clock time, and kairos, sacred, momentous time. We've eradicated kairos. TikTok's 15-second clips, Twitter's 280-character screams, Netflix's autoplay. These are chronos weaponized, a perpetual present tense where depth goes to die. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the smoothing of time. Like a river paved into a canal, your lived experience is stripped of rapids, eddies, and hidden depths. Memories blur into a digital slurry. Was that breakup before or after the pandemic? Did you learn that fact from a book or a YouTube ad? Worse, you lose the ability to anticipate. Dopamine loops keep you chasing the next hit, not the next horizon. As Nietzsche wrote, the future influences the present just as much as the past. But what happens when the future is reduced to a loading screen? Distraction doesn't just fragment minds, it fractures societies. In Brave New World, Huxley's citizens were pacified by pleasure. Today, we're polarized by precision-engineered outrage. Algorithms feed you ideological cocaine, pure, potent, and tailored to your deepest fears. Cognitive scientists call this confirmation bias on steroids. You're not just hearing what you want, you're becoming what you hate. The data is chilling. A 2022 MIT study showed falsehood spread 6x faster than truth on social media. Brain scans reveal that partisan content activates the same regions as threat detection. Fight or flight hijacked for clicks. We've turned Nietzsche's will to power into the will to meme. Democracy becomes a gladiator arena where nuance is torn apart by algorithmic lions. Here's the unspoken toll. Distraction is the new original sin. Monks once fasted to purify the soul. Now we fast from stimulation and find ourselves starving. Psychologist Carl Jung wrote that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. We've built a digital Vatican where the sacrament is distraction and the confession booth is a comments section. But the soul cannot be outsourced. Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz, argued that meaning is humanity's primary drive. Yet we've replaced meaning with mood management, SSRIs and ASMR, wellness cults and productivity hacks. The result? A society drowning in what philosopher Albert Camus called the benign indifference of the universe. You scroll to mute the scream of a question you've buried alive. What if my life doesn't matter? We stand at a precipice. The average attention span has dropped to 8.25 seconds, shorter than a goldfish's. We've created what neuroscientist Tali Sharot calls the illusion of learning. a Wikipedia skimmer's delusion of wisdom. You know everything and nothing, but the final consequence is metaphysical. You lose the ability to imagine alternatives. Philosopher Mark Fisher dubbed this capitalist realism, the belief that no world beyond consumerism and distraction is possible. Huxley's nightmare was a populace that loves its chains. We've gone further, we've forgotten their chains at all. This is where the road forks. One path leads deeper into the labyrinth, a descent into neural dust and spiritual amnesia. The other? A jagged climb toward what Dostoevsky called the fire that will remake the world. But rebellion demands a price. To break free, you must confront not just algorithms or corporations, but the void within, the abyss you've spent a lifetime fleeing. In the next section, we arm ourselves with ancient philosophies, rogue neuroscientists' findings, and the forbidden art of doing nothing. The exit is hidden in plain sight. To defeat an enemy, you must first become them. You've spent decades being trained by the greatest minds in behavioral psychology, Silicon Valley's engineers, advertisers, and attention architects. They know your triggers, your fears, your midnight cravings. But tonight, you turn their weapons against them. This is not a battle of willpower. This is guerrilla ontology, a term coined by philosopher Robert Anton Wilson for hacking reality itself. To win, you must weaponize the very systems that enslaved you. Let's begin. Step 1. Become a spy in the house of attention. In 1956, philosopher Gunther Anders observed that humans had become inverted utopians. We don't dream of perfection. We normalize dystopia. Your first act of rebellion? Reclaim your gaze. For one day, document every digital intrusion. 7:03 a.m. Reached for phone before urinating. 9:47 a.m. Watched TikTok of a stranger's breakfast while eating your own. 2:16 p.m. Googled existential crisis after LinkedIn post flopped. This isn't self-judgment, it's reconnaissance. Like French situationists mapping the psychogeography of cities, you're charting the minefield of your attention. By sundown, you'll realize you are not distracted. You are occupied territory. Step 2. Declare war on your dopamine. Neuroscientist Anna Lembke's research reveals a chilling truth. We've all become lab rats in a global Skinner box. The solution? Reset your brain's reward pathways through dopamine fasting. But forget trendy detoxes. True rebellion is subtler. Delete all apps with infinite scroll. Not deactivate, delete. Feel the phantom limb itch. Replace autoplay with interruption engineering. Set your devices to crash apps after 2 minutes of use. Fight friction with friction. For 1 hour daily, induce strategic boredom. Stare at a wall. Count cracks in plaster. Let your mind revolt. As Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your why? To feel reality again. Raw, uncurated, merciless. Step 3. Resurrect the art of negative capability. Poet John Keats coined this term for being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact or reason. Modernity pathologizes this state as anxiety. Reclaim it. Next time you feel the scroll urge, freeze, drop your shoulders. Whisper, "This is the poison. Where is the wound?" The void will rise, a tidal wave of dread, memories, unmourned grief. Let it. As Jungian analyst James Hollis writes, "The greatest burden we carry is the unlived life." Your addiction wasn't the problem. It was the symptom of a life buried alive. Step 4. Build an attention sanctuary. In 1812, the Luddites smashed textile machines to protect their craft. Your modern loom? The attention economy. Create a physical space governed by pre-digital physics. A chair facing a blank wall, no art, no screens. A notebook with pen, no cloud backup. A single analog clock, ticks audible. Here, practice ritualized irrelevance. Write letters to dead relatives. Memorize a poem until it rewires your speech. Argue with Aristotle in the margins of used books. This is not self-care. This is soulcraft, forging a self that can't be commodified. Step 5. Weaponize aesthetic terrorism. The situationists of 1960s Paris hijacked billboards to replace ads with poetry. Your mission: subvert the feed. Flood your social media with unalgorithmic content. Post photos of soil, not sunsets. Review Kafka's The Trial as a Yelp-style rant. Livestream yourself reading Proust to an empty room. Use hashtags against their masters. Hashtag nothing. To sell. Hashtag cognitive mutiny. Make the algorithm choke on your authenticity. As media theorist Marshall McLuhan warned, the medium is the message. Hijack the medium and you hijack reality. Here's the secret they'll never teach in productivity seminars. The more useless your acts of rebellion, the more powerful they become. When you memorize a poem instead of optimizing personal branding, you strike at capitalism's core commandment. Thou shalt monetize all things. When you stare at a wall instead of a screen, you reactivate neural pathways that billionaires have spent decades silencing. You're not avoiding the system, you're out-evolving it. But beware, the greatest enemy sits behind your eyes. Neuroscience confirms that habit loops physically reshape your brain. Each time you resist a scroll, you're not just being disciplined. You're excavating your basal ganglia with a neural pickaxe. Expect withdrawal symptoms, phantom vibrations, existential vertigo, vivid dreams of deleted apps. These are not signs of failure. They're proof of detox, the death throes of your digital doppelganger. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz by finding meaning in suffering. Your camp? The attention economy. When the void rises, when the itch to numb yourself becomes unbearable, ask Frankl's question: what is life asking of me now? Not your boss, not the algorithm, life itself. The answer will terrify you. Write the novel Call the Estranged Parent. Quit the soul-killing job. Distraction was the leash stopping you from jumping into the abyss. Cut it, and you'll discover the abyss was a trampoline. This is where Huxley's prophecy cracks. Brave New World citizens never rebelled because they never felt the chains. You've felt them. You've named them. Now, you wield them as weapons. But the final battle isn't against apps or CEOs. It's against the part of you that still craves the anesthetic, the child who'd rather suckle on pixels than face the howling dark. In the final section, we confront the ultimate truth. What waits in that darkness isn't a monster. It's the only thing worth saving. You're standing at the edge of a cliff. Below you stretches an abyss so vast it swallows sound, light, even time. This is not a metaphor. This is your mind unplugged, the raw, uncensored reality Huxley feared we'd forget how to see. For decades, you've hurled stones into this void. Tweets, selfies, playlists, anything to hear an echo that says, you exist. But the abyss answers only with silence. Here's the truth you've been fleeing. The silence was never empty, it was alive. The first revelation. You are the abyss. Today, a dark corpse rots in the town square. The self. Not the curated avatar, not the LinkedIn hustle bro, but the unmanaged self. The one that whispers at 3 a.m., is this all there is? Distraction is the coffin we built to bury that voice. But Jung was right. What you resist not only persists, but grows in size. Your shadow isn't lurking in the darkness. It is the darkness. The sum total of every unlived dream, unspoken rage, unwept tear you've numbed with Netflix and Ambien. The screens didn't create your void. They're the mirrors reflecting it. The second revelation. Death is the only algorithm that matters. In Brave New World, citizens are conditioned from birth to never put off pleasure till tomorrow. But Huxley's real horror lies in what they never learn. Mortality is the ultimate truth teller. You've outsourced your finitude to infinite scrolls. You track steps, sleep cycles, and screen time. Metrics to outrun the one stat that matters. Your heart has X beats remaining. Digital immortality fantasies, upload your brain, live as an NFT, are just the latest soma. But here's what the Tibetan Book of the Dead knew. Death isn't the enemy of life. It's the compass. Every moment you kill scrolling is a rehearsal for the final silence. Every notification is a tiny tombstone marking the death of presence. You think you're afraid of boredom? No, you're afraid of being, because to be means to confront the cosmic joke. You're a sack of stardust that thinks, loves, and will one day stop. The third revelation, your addiction was an act of love. This will hurt. You chose distraction because you couldn't bear the alternative. Every swipe was a prayer. Save me from my greatness. Every binge was a mercy killing of potential. The system didn't enslave you. It answered your silent scream. I can't handle being human. Philosopher Martin Heidegger called this inauthenticity, living according to the they, rather than your own Dasein, being there. But here's the grace. Your numbness was never failure. It was the psyche's immune response to a world that treats souls as data points. You didn't break, you adapted. Now it's time to evolve. The fourth revelation, hell is a streaming service. Dante's Inferno had 9 circles. Ours has infinite, limbo, the watch next queue. Lust, Tinder swipes at 2 a.m. Gluttony, doom scrolling through genocide footage. Greed, crypto bros promising escape. Wrath, quote tweet wars with strangers. Heresy, believing you're immune to algorithms. Violence, the slow murder of attention fraud. Instagram captions masking despair. Treachery, betraying your unlived life. But Dante missed the 10th circle. The hell of total awareness. The moment you realize you've spent your one precious life as a background character in someone else's ad campaign. The final revelation, the exit was inside you. In 1942, as bombs rained on London, Huxley wrote The Art of Seeing, a manifesto about reclaiming perception from societal hypnosis. His solution? Look as if you've never seen before. Here's how. Practice existential archaeology. Dig through your digital trash. Old texts, search histories, cringe tweets. These are not data. They're hieroglyphs of your hunger. Summon the boredom. Demons. Let restlessness rise until it morphs into its opposite. A frenzied creativity that terrifies your inner censor. Join the Neo-Luddite resistance. Not by smashing machines, but by becoming ungovernable. Use tech, but don't let it use you. The goal isn't enlightenment, it's embodiment. To feel the weight of your ass in the chair, the ache of your heart, the miracle of breath moving through a body that will decay. Huxley died on November 22, 1963, the same day JFK was shot. His final words, "It's a beautiful world, isn't it?" A nurse, thinking him delirious, hushed him. But Huxley wasn't hallucinating. He'd taken LSD. In his last trip, he saw past the soma, past the screens, past the collective hypnosis. What did he see? The same thing awaiting you in the abyss. A world so heartbreakingly beautiful, so saturated with meaning, that to look directly at it would shatter you. That's why we invented distraction. Not because reality is too harsh, but because it's too glorious. You can close this video now, return to the feed, numb the ache, or you can press pause. Sit. Let the silence colonize your bones, and ask the only question that matters. What will I do with my glorious, unbearable, flickering slice of time? The abyss is listening.